They tried to leave before my name was even called. My own parents. I watched them rise from their seats, whispering something about traffic, barely glancing at the stage. That's when I knew. I could either stay silent like I always had, or make this moment mine. You ever hold in a scream for 22 years? I did. And in that exact second, I decided to let it out. I wasn't just another girl in a cap and gown. I was a girl with a secret that would make every person in that auditorium turn their heads, especially the two who had spent a lifetime looking the other way. The dining table was decorated with blue balloons and a store-bought cake that said, "We're proud of you," in sloppy frosting. My little brother Ethan had just been accepted into a private high school with a fancy STEM program, and you'd think he cured cancer the way my parents beamed at him. I sat at the far end of the table, quietly cutting into my slice of cake. No one asked how my week went. No one asked about the letter from the principal I found in my locker this morning, the one congratulating me for maintaining the highest GPA in my year. I hadn't told them. Not because I didn't want to, but because I already knew it wouldn't matter. "Make sure you thank your father for pushing you," Mom said, ruffling Ethan's hair as he grinned with a mouthful of icing. "I didn't really do that much," Dad said, modestly brushing off the compliment. "But I always knew this boy was going to make us proud." I sipped my water and swallowed the lump in my throat. The wall behind Ethan was lined with framed photos. Birthdays, family vacations, school awards. My eyes scanned them like I always did, out of habit. Every photo of me stopped at age 13. After that, it was as if I'd disappeared, as if I had expired. "Madison," Dad said, finally glancing at me. "Did you talk to your counselor about changing majors? You're good at school, but Ethan's going to be a real achiever." "I'm double majoring in philosophy and political science. I already declared," I said softly. He frowned, then shrugged. "You're smart, sure. But your brother's got that spark. He's the kind of kid who makes a name for the whole family." The air felt thinner after that. I smiled, automatically, mechanically, because I'd trained myself to respond without flinching, without letting them know that every word felt like a clean slice across skin that hadn't yet healed from the last. When dinner ended, I helped clear the table while Mom sorted the mail by the door. A stack of envelopes spilled from the metal holder she'd overstuffed. One slipped and fluttered to the floor near my foot. I bent down to pick it up, pausing when I saw the label. My name, handwritten, addressed from Cambridge, Massachusetts. She reached out, but I held it just a second longer. "Why didn't you give this to me?" Her expression changed, so subtly that I might have imagined it. "Oh, that's probably nothing. A scholarship ad or some junk." But it wasn't junk. I opened the letter upstairs in my room, my heart drumming like a warning bell. It was an invitation. No, an acceptance. I had been selected to attend a prestigious summer program at MIT, full tuition covered, lodging included, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The date of the letter was from 6 weeks ago. The deadline to respond was 2 weeks past. The words blurred on the page, then refocused, sharp and cruel. I knocked on Mom's door, clutching the envelope like it might burst into flames in my hands. "You read it," she said before I even spoke. "I didn't want to upset you. It would have been too much. You get anxious, Madison. You overthink things." "You didn't even tell me," I said, my voice low but shaking. "You didn't even let me choose." Her face hardened. "I was protecting you. You don't handle pressure well, and if you'd gone and failed, it would have broken you." "I never got the chance to find out," I said, then walked out. Dad was in the garage. When I asked if he knew, He blinked like I'd asked him to recite the Constitution. "I trust your mother's judgment," he said. "You always take things so personally. Maybe it's not as big a deal as you think." That night, I opened my laptop and created a new document. I typed the title first, "Just in case no one ever knows." I didn't know what I was writing exactly. A journal, a confession, a record. But the words flowed. Every time I'd been overlooked, every award I'd hidden, every moment I'd felt like the ghost of someone who was never born into the right family. And then I wrote, "I will prove myself. Not so they'll be proud. So they'll be silent." I saved the document, closed the laptop. Outside, the wind rattled the window like someone, or something, was knocking, asking to be let in. But I knew better. The knock was coming from inside me. The alarm rang at 5:30 a.m., though I hadn't really slept. I closed my eyes for a moment before rolling out of bed and slipping on my apron. Morning shift at the diner started at 6. I'd go straight to campus after that, then spend the afternoon tutoring high school juniors for SAT prep. At night, I'd write essays for students too lazy or too rich to do them themselves. 3 jobs. No complaints. Just forward motion. No one in my family asked why I wasn't home much anymore. No one noticed the dark circles under my eyes or the blisters on my hands. They just assumed I was busy being dramatic again. Between shifts, I updated my blog under the name The Unseen Scholar. I'd built it in secret 2 years ago, mostly as a place to vent and post tips about surviving college without support. Somehow, it had grown. 20,000 readers a month. People sent me thank you emails, called me brave. Brave. Funny how strangers could see what your own parents never bothered to look for. That night, after work, I stood outside the house at 2 or 7 a.m., too tired to take another step, but too angry to walk in. The porch light was off. Everyone inside was asleep. I looked up at the second-floor window, my room, and exhaled a breath I'd been holding all day. Then I walked in like a ghost. No one stirred. The next day, I submitted my application for the Perseus Global Scholars Program, an international research exchange for undergrads. Full ride. Only 10 students were selected each year. The form was long, grueling. I triple-checked every field, wrote a personal statement that felt like ripping my chest open with a spoon. At the end, there was a field I hadn't expected. Parent-guardian signature required. I stared at it for a long time. That box. That stupid little rectangle that held all the power. I waited until dinner to bring it up. "There's this opportunity," I said. "A scholarship. International. I need a signature." Mom looked up from her phone. "Out of the country?" "Yes. 3 months in Europe." "No." She didn't even blink. "You can't handle that. You'd fall apart." "I've been working 3 jobs and managing a 4.0, I said. "That's different," she replied. "That's here. You can always come home. But out there? If something goes wrong, you won't have us." "Exactly." "I need this," I said. She shook her head. "No, Madison. I won't sign." That night, I practiced forging her signature twice, then signed the form. The next week, a red alert popped up on my student portal. A grade dispute. One of my professors reported a missing citation in my last essay. A mistake. Minor. Unintentional. But it triggered a review. If flagged, it could cost me my existing scholarship. I spiraled quietly. No outburst. No crying fit. Just silence. I sat curled up in the library, staring at a blank screen while the walls pressed in, my jaw clenched, my fists dug into my thighs. But outside, I looked. Still. Then came the text from Clara. "I can't do this anymore, Mads. You never tell me anything. You act like you've got it all handled. but I can't keep watching you drown with a smile on your face. I'm your best friend, not your therapist. I'm tired. I stared at it for 20 minutes, typed responses, deleted them. Maybe I had pushed her away. Maybe I wanted to. Later that night, my mentor, Professor Green, called. I almost didn't answer. "Check your inbox," she said. "Oxford responded." "What?" "I sent your application last month, just in case." I blinked. I didn't ask." "I know," she said gently. "That's why I did it." I opened the email. "Dear Madison, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for an interview for the Rhodes pre-admittance pathway at the University of Oxford." I reread the sentence 3 times, as if the words might vanish if I blinked wrong. "You got it," Professor Green said. "Now comes the hard part." I said nothing. She hesitated, then added, "You have a chance to change everything. But do you have the courage to make them hear you?" The interview room was nothing like I imagined. No long mahogany table, no ticking clock. Just a quiet space with a single window, 2 chairs, and the kind of silence that demanded honesty. I sat across from 3 scholars whose names I recognized from journals and TED Talks. They weren't intimidating exactly, but they carried the weight of expectation, the kind that makes your lungs forget how to inflate. "Why do you want this?" one of them asked. I inhaled slowly, forcing my voice to be steady. "I don't want this because I believe I'm special," I said. "I want this because I've spent most of my life being told I'm not. I'm not here to change the world. I'm here to stop the world from changing me." A pause. Then one of them smiled. Later that week, Professor Green sat across from me with her signature cup of black tea, and that look, equal parts proud and cautious. "They were impressed," she said. I didn't reply. I couldn't believe it until she said the words. "You're in." My throat tightened. "They actually—" "You're their top candidate," she said. "But they asked for one thing before we finalize." "What?" I asked. "They want to meet your family, understand your story from both sides." The walls closed in again. I can't ask them to do that. They won't come." "They don't have to fly to Oxford. They just want to be present for your graduation speech. It's symbolic." Symbolic. That word again. Like I was a metaphor they wanted to study. I nodded slowly, the storm already forming in my chest. "Fine. I'll invite them." I went home that night and sat at the kitchen table while Ethan played video games in the living room. I printed the invitation and slid it across to him without a word. "Graduation?" he said. "I want Mom to come." He looked at the paper, then at me. "You sure?" "Not really, but yeah." He nodded. "I'll give it to her." I didn't ask if she'd say yes. I already knew. 2 days later, as I passed the hallway, I heard her voice behind the door. "Graduation's at noon. We'll go, show face, leave early. She's not doing anything major." Her words dropped like stones, cold, clean, final. I didn't stop walking. Instead, I went back to my room and opened a blank document. The cursor blinked at me. Patient, unbothered. I titled the file, Final Words. I wrote like I was bleeding. Every line wasn't just for the audience. It was for me. It was for the 13-year-old girl who stared too long at family portraits and wondered where her smile had gone. It was for the 17-year-old girl who worked the graveyard shift and walked home in shoes with holes. It was for the 22-year-old woman who learned to scream without raising her voice. I wrote until my hands cramped and my eyes ached. At one point, I stopped and looked around my room. Books stacked, papers everywhere, the air dense with quiet determination. And still I couldn't feel anything, until Clara knocked. I hadn't seen her since that text. She stood at my door with red eyes and shaky breath. "Hey," she said. I stared at her, unsure if this was a dream. "I came to say I'm sorry," she said. "I was angry, but not at you. I was scared. Scared you didn't need me. That I was just watching you disappear." I stepped forward. She hugged me before I could say anything. We both cried. "I never hated you," she whispered. "I just hated feeling like I couldn't reach you." "I didn't mean to shut you out," I said. I didn't think anyone would want to stay if they saw how deep it went." "Well," she smiled through tears, "I'm still here." Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror. No makeup, no filter, just me. "I survived," I whispered. "That's enough." I printed the acceptance letter from Oxford, folded it carefully, and placed it in the inside pocket of my black vest. My fingers lingered on it. It felt heavier than paper. It felt like a key. The day of graduation arrived with overcast skies and the smell of damp earth. The crowd was buzzing, gowns fluttering like soft flags of war. I walked the stage stairs slowly, holding my speech in one hand, the letter in the other. As my name was called, I scanned the audience. That's when I saw them. My parents were already rising from their seats, collecting their coats, whispering to Ethan, who looked uncomfortable. Leaving early. Again. I stepped to the podium, cleared my throat. They were halfway to the aisle. I unfolded the paper. "Thank you all for being here today," I began, the microphone amplifying my voice across the sea of gowns and proud faces. "To our professors, our mentors, our classmates, thank you. Thank you for challenging us, for pushing us, for believing we'd make it this far." I heard polite claps, the kind people give automatically. My hands weren't shaking. Not yet. "I want to thank my friends," I continued, eyes scanning until I saw Clara, who smiled and nodded. "For standing by me, even when I didn't know how to let you." I took a breath. This part was expected, safe. Then I folded the page in my hand and slid it into my folder. "I have a confession," I said, my voice firmer now. "A secret I've kept even from those closest to me." The room shifted, subtle. Students leaned in. Faculty stopped glancing at their watches. Even the murmuring in the back faded. "For most of my life," I said, "I've been told to be quiet, to not make things harder, to stay grateful, to understand that some people just shine brighter." I paused, hands gripping the sides of the podium. "But today, I want to tell you something I've never said out loud. Not to my friends, not to my professors, not even to my family." From the inside pocket of my vest, I pulled out the letter, not folded anymore, not hidden. "I've been awarded a full scholarship to Oxford University," I said. "I'll be studying political theory next fall." A gasp rippled through the audience. "I didn't share it sooner," I said, "because I've spent 22 years believing it wouldn't matter, that it would be ignored, that someone would say, 'Don't get ahead of yourself.' But this time, I wanted it to be undeniable." The auditorium fell silent. Not awkward silent. Sacred silent. I looked down at my speech, but I didn't read it. I looked up. Not at my parents, who were still standing in the aisle, frozen mid-step. I looked into the live stream camera. "For anyone watching this who's ever been overlooked," I said. "Who's ever been told to dim their light for someone else. This is for you." I smiled, but it wasn't for the camera. It was for the girl I used to be. "I have waited my whole life to hear just one thing," I said. "That I did well. So today I'm saying it to myself." I stepped back. The room exploded. People stood, applauded, whistled, cheered. My parents didn't move. They just stood there, still and silent. Later, when the crowd dispersed and the stage was empty, I didn't look for them. I didn't wait for a hug or a nod. I walked outside, diploma in hand, and took a long, full breath. The air was warm. It tasted like possibility. My phone buzzed. A call from Mom. I stared at it for a beat. Then 2. Then I declined. A minute later, a text from Ethan. They're stunned. First time I've ever seen them speechless. You did that? I didn't reply, but I smiled. Not in victory. In relief. I went home, packed my things, and turned off my notifications. The next morning, my inbox was flooded. Emails from strangers, former teachers, even 2 reporters. Then I saw it. A subject line that read, Interview request, The Morning Circle, a national talk show, live. They wanted me to come share my story. Invisible. No More had gone viral overnight. People were reposting the clip of my speech. Parents were tagging each other. Teens were using the hashtag to talk about their own stories. It wasn't just mine anymore. But in the middle of the noise, I felt quiet. Not peaceful. Not proud. Just quiet. Like after a storm, when the damage is still invisible, but, something shifted. I didn't cry. I didn't laugh. I didn't run around the room in triumph. I just sat on the floor, surrounded by packed boxes and the echo of applause that no longer reached my ears. I had broken the silence. But no one tells you how heavy freedom feels when you're finally holding it. Then, one more ping. We would love to have you tell your story, Madison. Millions are listening. Are you ready? I stared at the screen. Then I typed, Let's talk. The coffee shop hadn't changed. Same flickering neon sign, same scratched wooden tables, same faded smell of cinnamon and dust. It was the place my mother used to bring me when I was little, before everything, before I became the background character in her story. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, 2 cups in front of her, hers nearly empty, mine untouched. Hi, I said. She looked up, eyes red. Hi. We sat in silence. No small talk. No, how have you been? Finally, she said, I watched your speech. I didn't respond. She looked down at her hands. I didn't know you felt that way. I stared out the window. You didn't want to know. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid if I let you go, you'd never come back. I turned to her, my voice low but clear. I wasn't planning to. Her eyes filled, not the kind of tears that demand attention, but the quiet, slow kind that come from too many years of holding them in. But I also don't want to carry this anymore, I said. The silence, the pretending. She nodded slowly. I'm not here to forgive, I added. I'm here to set terms. She looked startled. If you want to be in my life, I said, you have to stop making me feel small. You have to see me. Not the version you imagined, but the one who fought through every door you closed. She didn't interrupt. We sat in that truth for a while. Just 2 women. Not mother and daughter. Not enemy and victim. Just 2 people trying not to drown in what was left unsaid. For the first time, I saw her not as the person who had hurt me, but as someone deeply flawed and deeply afraid. She reached into her bag, pulled out a worn book, and slid it across the table. My breath caught. It was my journal, the one titled, Just in Case No One Ever Knows. I read it, she said softly. I looked at her. I shouldn't have, she continued, but I'm glad I did. The weight in my chest shifted, not gone, but lighter. I took the journal, ran my hand over the cover, and nodded. No hugs, No dramatic reconciliation. Just a quiet truce. And that was enough. For now. After that day, I wrote like a woman possessed. I turned my blog posts, my journal entries, and my pain into a book. I called it The Daughter They Forgot. It was part memoir, part manifesto. It didn't beg for sympathy. It demanded recognition. Within weeks of publication, it hit bestseller lists. People from all over the world sent messages, stories of being unseen, unheard, unchosen. It wasn't just my story. It was a collective cry. I took the proceeds and founded a scholarship called Silent Spark for young women who were doing everything alone. I gave talks at universities, high schools, women's shelters, and then came the TED Talk. I stood under a single spotlight, no podium this time, just me and the weight of every word. I used to think I needed someone to tell me I mattered, I said, but the truth is, your existence doesn't require confirmation. You are valid because you are here, because you chose to keep going, even when no one clapped. People wept, people stood, and still I felt steady, not empty, not triumphant, just solid. Then one morning, as I sifted through letters and emails, I saw it. Subject line, "To my daughter, from your first reader." It was from my mother. I was wrong. About you. About what you needed. I see it now. I'm proud of you. Not because of Oxford, not because of your book, but because you survived. You turned silence into something that speaks for others. I hope one day I'll earn a place in your story. Until then, I'll be reading. I sat with that for a long time. Didn't cry, didn't smile. Just let it be. Then came another email. Different name. My father. The email from my father arrived at 4:17 a.m. I saw it when I couldn't sleep, when the city outside was a hush of fog and far-off footsteps. My inbox was cluttered with press requests, speaking invitations, academic updates, but his name stopped me cold. I hovered over the subject line, not sure what I wanted it to say. Not sure if I even wanted to open it. But I did. If you got all the way there without us, then maybe it's your turn to teach others how to do the same. That was it. No apology, no explanation, just a single line. But I read it again, and again, and I smiled. That was the only thing he ever said that mattered, not because it made things right, not because it absolved anything, but because it acknowledged what he never had before, that I did this on my own, that it wasn't luck or exaggeration or drama. It was survival, strategy, strength, and now it was legacy. Weeks passed in a blur. I moved to Oxford, settled into a tiny flat overlooking the River Cherwell. My days were full, lectures, research, walks under trees older than America itself. But it was the nights I cherished most, when everything went still, and I sat with my thoughts, my journals, my past. One evening I walked to the edge of the river, holding something small in my hand. A photo, old, faded, curled at the edges. My family, on the porch. I must have been 6 or 7, everyone smiling. I looked so hopeful in that frame, like I didn't know what was coming yet. I stood at the bank for a long time. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of earth and rain. Then I let the photo go. It floated for a second, then dipped, sank. And just like that, it was done. Not forgotten, not erased, just released. For the first time, my chest felt light, like I didn't owe anyone anything anymore. I walked back home humming to myself, hands tucked into my coat pockets. No one ever tells you that closure isn't loud. It's quiet, so quiet you almost miss it. A month later, I opened a small space in the heart of campus. Nothing grand, Just one room. Bookshelves lining the walls, beanbags and floor pillows instead of desks, a coffee machine humming in the corner. I called it For the Unseen, a library, a sanctuary, a place for the students who didn't feel like they belonged in the official narratives, who needed a table where they didn't have to fight for a seat. There was no check-in system, no ID required, no proof of hardship. If you walked in, that was enough. The shelves were filled with books I wished someone had handed me when I was 15 and lost. Stories of quiet resilience, non-traditional successes, narratives that didn't fit into college brochures. I taught a weekly writing workshop there. Not about grammar or structure, but about honesty, about giving yourself permission to take up space on the page. Word spread fast. Students came. Some stayed for hours. Some left notes instead of conversations. Some cried, hugged me, said nothing. One day, a letter arrived. No return address. Just a Texas postmark. Dear Madison, I don't know how you did it, but I wanted to say thank you. I watched your speech, read your book, sat in my room one night, holding all the pills I'd been collecting, thinking I'd just disappear like I always felt I had. But then I heard you say, I waited my whole life to hear just one thing, that I did well. So today I'm saying it to myself. And I thought, maybe I can say it too. Maybe I don't have to wait for someone else anymore. You helped me survive another year. Maybe more. Thank you. From one invisible girl to another. I pressed the letter to my chest and let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Clara came by later that night, bringing 2 sweet tea and those flaky pastries I always pretended to hate but devoured. She found me holding the letter. I read it aloud. She didn't say anything, just leaned her head against mine. Is it enough? I whispered. It's everything, she said. Later, alone, I whispered to the air, to no one in particular. If just one person sees you, it's enough. And I believed it, because it had been enough for me.